The fashion industry looks very glamorous, but what many people forget is the hard work that goes into it. And that is why we need to talk to seasoned fashion professionals who have found a way to make a successful career in the fashion industry. My name is Morgalen Rajah, and welcome to afi Conversations. Hello, I'm Morgalen Rajah. Welcome to afi Conversations. This afternoon I'm joined by three great Durban fashion people who have made sure that they make a success of their lives in the fashion industry. I'm joined by Morgalen Rajah, who is the founder of Lab Clothing, Prince Thabiso Mkhize, who is the founder of Prince Bespokes, and also Fezile Mdletshe, who is the CEO and founder of Fezile's Fashion Skills Academy. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
I'm going to start it very easy. When did you realize that you're in love in fashion, and how did you get into the industry? Let's start with you, Fezile.
When did I realize? At the age of 9. So I was born in it. Born in, with a fashion DNA and an entrepreneurial DNA.
Yeah.
So literally since I was very young, I started making clothes at the age of 9. So by the time I got to high school, I could make almost a fully finished garment. So then I pursued it and I studied it up. There's other bits in between.
Yeah.
And I love it so much that I've studied it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing my doctoral degree.
Come through.
Non-generic.
Beautiful.
Non-generic in fashion design, purely. Yeah, because I want to graduate as the first woman with one, in the African space.
Wow.
That's how much I love fashion.
Yeah.
And it was never there before, but because I love it so much and I've grown and I've always just done this, and then academic doors opened along the way.
Yeah.
I'm right at the end of the NQF trying to do that and finish that up. So that's how I think it summarizes how much I love it. Yeah.
And you, Prince?
I think it's pretty much the same as young as I can remember, but I come from a township and there's always just been misconceptions around a guy in fashion. So I'm a very creative person, as also I took the music route instead. As I was studying music, I was juggling with a retail job, and it was a bespoke suiting shop from England.
Yeah.
So I used to start people, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I would do this every day of my life. It just happens that we live in a society or in a country or an environment where there's money and, and I'm just like, I enjoy doing this so much that I do it for free, Of course, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I think that was the turning point for me. That was 2016.
Yeah.
And I've never looked back.
Wow. So it's like fairly recent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Morgalen?
2006, sorry, my bad.
2006.
Yeah.
Okay. Morgalen?
I think for myself, we started from the age of, I think, 16 or 17, very involved in art.
Yeah.
I used to nag my mom to buy me cookies and pastels and crayons and whatever. And I think the art side, I loved art so much, being in school.
Yeah.
And back in the day, back in the 80s, if you thought of being in fashion or fashion design, then there was definitely something wrong with you. Definitely. And I went against all odds, and I used to obviously tell family members that I want to be involved in fashion, and they said, why would you want to do that? You become a teacher or become something else, professional. And obviously I finished school, and I knew exactly. I used to go to DUT back in the day, and just before I could sort of finish my matric, and I knew exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then I got involved in, obviously, at Tech, ML Sultan,
yes,
in 1986.
So still Natal Technical at those days.
Yes, yeah. ML Sultan Technicon, and I qualified in 1986, and that's where it all started.
Yeah.
That year.
And now we have lab clothing.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, 30 some odd years down the line, we fortunate enough that we could see the light and see a brighter future. We sustain a lot of jobs, and that's how we progressed to.
Yeah. So today's topic really is about preparing to work in the fashion industry. What you really need to know, the things that fashion schools sometimes neglect to tell you, the realities that you find that you're in the industry, you're like, actually, I'm not prepared for this. So what are just some of the most common misconceptions about the fashion industry that aspiring professionals should be aware of? Fezile, I'll start with you.
On a school level, because obviously in my journey, eventually after I did it all, designing, fashion buying, fashion lecturing, clothing manufacturing, I summed it all up and I opened a fashion school. I think to try and sort of marry what you're asking, I don't know if there's an amount of readiness, that you can teach at college level. Usne is here with me, she knows. There isn't, because that's another reality, and the working world is a different reality. Do you know what I mean? And my other two fellow panelists can obviously unpack on that. We can prepare them on the foundation side of just the frameworks that you need to survive and sort of make it. And in theory, so 30% in theory and 70% in practical form.
Yeah.
But there isn't much, because I was also once a fashion student, and you're so naive to your thoughts, and the reality are two different things.
Sure.
And now I'm in business as an entrepreneur and businesswoman in my own fashion school. That's also different to me looking at the students in their eyes and me doing it. So there isn't much. I don't really have, I don't know, maybe we can unpack it the right words, because I can panel beat teach you discipline and professionalism to the core, but my students are very nonchalant about a lot of things. But a lot of things, because their reality at college between 8 and 4 is very different to the working world. Yes, as a college, we do send them off to industry to practice and collaborate and understand, but it's a very short time. And their reality really hits only after college. Aibo, this is not what we think it is. So you will never know it until you're in it hot and heavy. So I've got no words of wisdom. They must just, maybe, I don't know.
What did you wish that you were aware of before you got into the business of fashion?
So it's an overly glamorized industry. Looks very beautiful on the outside. It's punchy, it's sexy, it's, unfortunately it's not in actuality. There's a lot of stresses, there's a lot of running a business, so I'm a creative, but the whole running of a business is another story. So I think, that's been the biggest challenge for me, even now, because especially if you start up as a young, upcoming designer or a small business, the challenges are you don't have the resources, you don't have the capital to get an accountant, to get a marketing strategist, a PR strategist. You need to wear all of these hats, and still immerse yourself in the creativity of fashion, styling, trends.
Create something groundbreaking.
You know what I mean?
Well.
So I think just running it as a business for me, especially if you're wanting to take it to that route. Yeah.
For you, Morgalen, you've run a business that's 3 decades old. How were you able to find that success? When did you realize that actually I can do this?
It's very challenging when you put pen to paper. It just doesn't start and end there. You need to obviously have the will of implementing it, making sure that it goes through these different stages, whether it's marketing it, whether it's planning the whole execution of your dream, whatever you have planned for that particular style, or for namesake manufacturing it. You have all these thoughts that are going through your mind to make sure that you need to execute this. So from my point is, a student going to college, And if you're not exposed to the right environment or the right training after college, you don't actually know what industry is all about. And you actually fall short because you think of this pretty picture, and it's not all about that, because then you don't get involved. There's, in this fashion industry, there's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
There's absolutely a lot of stress, and there's a lot of success as well that comes with it.
Yeah.
But your challenges that you face every day is, when I say, I mean, I'm 30 years in this game. I'm very involved on the manufacture side rather than the design side. So I'm on the execution side of things. And believe you me, every single day we face a challenge with something. And you need to obviously try and figure a way out to get out of it. So from my side, it's just, for a student, the most important thing is exposure. And if a student doesn't get the right amount of exposure, and believe you me, I don't even think it's 6 months or even 3 months in a factory that is able to sort of put you on, so you could sort of stand on your own 2 feet. Because that is, I think, for me, it's not adequate time for a student to start thinking on their own. So one should obviously get students more involved in training, in like serving apprentice at a factory after your college. Go to make sure that you secure the space, in the sense of for your own purpose, for you to train, and then the bigger picture will start, because then you have adequate knowledge of every aspect of the of design or putting it together, or manufacturing it, or the processes that get involved in manufacturing. So that's I think it's an important aspect.
Yeah, but what have been some of the most essential skills that helped you to thrive in the fashion industry?
Coming from a very old school, fashion design back in the day was never
a career choice.
Career choice. It was obviously you need to have a lot of heart in it. I think for me, most important, being in college and garment construction and putting a garment together, and pattern construction, which is you need to have adequate information about this, because if you don't, that's where your skills would sort of fall along the way. For the only reason that is your foundation. If you have proper training and skills to implement, nothing can stop you. And I think that's the most important thing that you need.
Yeah. And you, Fezile, you in the skills training of it
side,
all.
yeah.
And how much of it are you drilling into your students?
Sure, all of it really, because I called it Fezile Fashion Skills Academy, because a lot of schools are something fashion school, and that's the misconception of glam. So I put skills in the brand academy, because it's literally there's no glam in it. It's everything that is related in the industry, in clothing manufacturing, and all things in and around fashion. So literally every single thing, from the design part, which is the creative aspects, to the technical part, which is your pattern making, your grading, your rating, your cutting, and your garment construction. So what we've introduced as an interesting factor is the industry part. So every single thing that we do at the college, we always put in industry. So we bring in industry critiques, and we involve, and we place, and we don't wait until like the senior years for the students to go out and do internships. They do internships and in-service training and volunteering literally as soon as first year, the first 6 months of the course. Because really, it's so true to what you're saying, that it's really through practice where you refine. Yeah. So, and in our industry, clothing and fashion at large, it's literally 10 years of darkness. And I think what's important for any student or young person to remember and know is because, you know, young people, they rush. They're in such a hurry to everything. You know, I'm 39. I've taken 20 years to polish everything. 20 years to polish up everything. And, you know, and you're a whole 30 plus. So they see us and they just want to. And they, you know, and they think in 2 years and 3 years. And there's 10 years of darkness where you need to refine and polish your practice and your craft. And you experiment and you reflect and you redo. So they must go in, spend time. And I always say the best place to learn, you need to work for someone. You need to go work. Actually. And they don't want to work. You need to work. Because it's free in-service training. The benefit is that someone pays you to do that. But you actually need to go learn the job on the ground, on the factory floor, production design. You must move throughout all the corners of the space. That's the only way you understand. And give yourself sufficient time to learn. You know, so it's the patience. Because at the end of the day, sadly, entrepreneurs are not made, they're born.
They're born. Because
there's a certain resilience that we don't tire. Whether the money's there or not there, I promise you. If you are made along the way because circumstances made you an entrepreneur, you're gonna tire. You know, some of us have been closing this business, opening, closing, starting, and I think finally we're getting it right because it's what you are born to do. So there's a certain resilience and patience. No matter whether you've got 100,000 or 0,000, you keep going.
I love that you touched on the patience and resilience part because everything these days just seems to be immediate. You know, we have immediate instant gratification and everybody just wants to have made it without actually putting in the slop. Prince, your journey is totally different because you didn't go to a traditional fashion school in a sense. So starting your brand, Prince Bespoke, you know, what were the essential skills you felt like I needed to have this in order for me to be taken seriously as a fashion entrepreneur?
So one, I think it's conviction and just discipline. The fact that I knew that I am called for this and seasons will come, but I need to, you know, stand tall throughout, you know. But I think if it looks like a lucrative venture from a distance, and if you're gonna venture into it because of whatever, you know, you get into it 6 months later or a year later, realize, you know, actually, you know, because I've got a lot of people that know me and think, this influencer, and surely I can start this. And 6 months later, you just think, guys, it's tough, you know. So I think the conviction for me really just sums it up because you're accountable to yourself, you know, and when whatever arises, it's not going to be, okay, now let me venture into something else. Let me do something else. I've got a degree in teaching. Let me pursue that again, you know. It's just discipline, you know, doing what my brothers and sisters have shared earlier on and just immersing and learning and I don't know, just not fearing getting your hands dirty. We all need to start somewhere.
Did you ever feel like, you know, your journey was going to be even tougher because
absolutely, and I think that there was more of a seriousness, more of a hunger because I'm just like, okay, formally I'm not trained to doing this, so I need to work 10 times harder. I need to be there and studied it 5 times better, you know. But that pressure has really helped me.
You know, Fezile touched on about how entrepreneurs are born. And you will learn, sure, you know, because you're attracted to the industry. But, you know, if it doesn't work out, you're going to go back to, like, your backup plan. So I just want to ask, what qualities do successful fashion professionals possess?
You know, and I say they're born because I never thought that. Now I'm, you know, going to rehash an old story. I recently did an anagram. I've never done an anagram in my life. And I did it at this old age. Imagine, I didn't even know such a thing existed. And I know in the business school that I'm part of, only 2 of us, you know, it came out that actually this is in your DNA. It's in your line of the family. And, you know, you are actually the only born entrepreneur with another lady. And I was like, what does that even mean? And they're like, born entrepreneurs literally, throughout the whole life, they've just got a burning hunger and they will start and close businesses. And when there are these massive challenges that for anybody else, they could close up, they don't. Like I'm saying. So in terms of qualities, the resilience, you know, and there are so many challenges, you know. I was a lecturer before this, and I had a nice job. They paid me well, a nice life, nice car, nice things because of a job. And I decided later that actually I'm going to leave the lecturing, fashion design lecturing space and eventually start this thing up. And I've been in now for 5 years, you know, and they say your 5 years are the toughest years. You need to love it. Like Prince said, you need to know that you are born to love it. And you know, entrepreneurship is a calling.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual thing. I almost cannot explain it because there's so many corners and times and hardships where financially it's so hard. You know, we all went through COVID. My business went through COVID. At some point I had 4 campuses, now I have 1. You know, and you get hit. There are so many hard times from, you know, just the human resources part of it, the operational part of it. There's a lot of it. Finances not being there. I know Prince was saying it, but at the end of the day, you've got a business to run and you've got a team to pay and you've got logistics and operations to pay for. You must make a plan. And a lot of people burn and crash. So I don't have the right answers for you. Sorry, but it's a calling. And I'm one of the few blessed ones where I found my purpose very early in life. And that's when I was young. And my purpose was fashion. And within fashion, I've navigated. And I've done different things, but the overall calling was fashion. I just want to do this. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to cook. I don't want to sell cars. I don't want to be a police officer. I don't want to be a doctor.
You don't want to save lives.
I don't want to save lives, you know. I just want to be in fashion, and I'm happy to do anything else in fashion. And it just so happened that my passion is teaching. So it's the resilience, and it's the calling, and it's, I don't know, help me.
I think I think your soul will not find peace.
Yes.
Up until
Okay. And I'm at peace, Mina. That's bro. Every day I wake up and I love what I do.
Even with the challenges.
And I love what I do.
Yeah.
Whether the money is there to pay the people or whether the money is not there to pay people. I will go to work with a smile on my face and the look on my face will not change. Whether the money is there or not.
Because there's a glam squad. That won't change.
I don't know if I've helped you. Understand?
No, it is because one of those things where I always also ask myself, because I document the journey of fashion and fashion professionals, and it's always a question that stumps them, like what qualities do you possess, and everybody goes back to the whole you really need to feel it in your guts that you cannot do anything else. Morgan, have you ever imagined yourself not doing fashion?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And we are so passionate about the drive of waking up every morning, and no matter what the day looks like, it's always a beautiful day because it's new challenges. Fashion is something that, and for myself, and I speak from how I've seen Lab grow over the years, and where has it taken us from. A staff of 5, we are now on about 115
That's
amazing.
People that we employ. So for that and the social impact that we have on growing that love of what you do passionately, and when you hear about a mom that's handed clothes down to the other little one in the family after 10 years and say, hey, you know what, your lab products are really beautiful. That's the gratification that you get of your product. And for me, it's just that burning desire to go to work, and I'll be 60 in 2 years. And often people say, when are you going to just retire and just give this up? And you just if it's in your blood, it's in you. To have this drive and passion about the fashion. It's very very sort of difficult to just let something go. And especially this has been happening ever since I went to college. So this drive it's not about the fact that you are successful at it because you have made yourself somewhere in the industry, but the success behind it is obviously the social impact that you create. You could be a one-man band designer, and you just, no disrespect to you, but when you have this thing about, you're feeding so many families, and that's a success about it, and that makes me, I'm in my element.
Yeah. Cool. So Prince, every industry is about, the networks that you have made. How easy has it, or difficult rather, has it been for you to build a solid network and connections in the industry that have kind of served you and your vision for Prince Bespokes?
It's been absolutely tough. Because I'm in a community of people. I don't know why we were taught we are always competition and we can't coexist. So it's been extremely difficult in that sense, which is why I spoke to you about the show that I did, was for just youngsters to coexist, because I have a lot of clients that do other things and they're like, I wish I'd known. I've sourced that now in Cape Town. I've went ahead and sourced that in Johannesburg. And I'm just like, these guys exist in Durban, So I feel like we are in a community where a lot of that doesn't happen, because if you are in the creative space as well, or in the fashion industry as well, automatically that's competition. Now and if Gucci and Adidas can collaborate, why can't we do the same? So I think it will take time for us to eventually get there. So it's been tough because we are not there.
Yeah, and Fezile, to add on that about the professional industries and having the right stakeholders, how did you make it happen for you and your fashion skills?
Come through. I want to know that.
You better tell me. Okay, I guess the difference, because I know Prince is the first thing he said when he got here, because I'm in the education space, the game there is a little bit different, and historically it's not really dominated by people of color, if I may just summarize. And that's on an African perspective, national perspective, global perspective. So my angle was, okay, if I'm saying I want to own a fashion school, what can I take from the other races that they've done right and wrong? And what can I take from, my own fellow people of color that they've done right and wrong? And my stance, and this is from an education point of view, on a color perspective, my angle was I really wanted to professionalize the face of black fashion education, if I may say, because it's always looked messy, It always looks like, oh, she's gonna open a school in a corner in somewhere in town.
Riff-raff.
She's gonna bunch, people up, and create uniforms or whatever, and with small tables, the face. It has never looked good in comparison to. So that was my first angle, that I want to professionalize the face of black fashion education. What it's looked like for years and what I feel it should look like, comparing it to, your universities of technologies and your private, white-owned schools and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, and the first thing that I said to myself was, I need to be educated. That was the first thing. I need to be educated all the way up. Hence, I am doing a doctoral degree. Because as a woman of color or as a female, trying to do something so great, competing with, who I've named, I was not going to get taken seriously.
Yeah.
If I was just some aunt from Mpangeni, which is where I'm from, who just decided to start a school. I didn't want to do it that way. So, my experience in the industry also pays tribute to, the networks.
Yeah.
I was a fashion buyer for some of the biggest retailers in the country.
Yeah.
I did that. I did my years. I've also supplied, some of the biggest stores. As a designer, I've done that too. I've showcased. And then I think the last part was I lectured at a respectable university. So that was like the last nail on the coffin. Yeah. Apart from other things. But really for me, it was, I'm going to be educated to be respected. I'm not saying that's where everyone has to go. It was a decision I made because I looked at the successes of my counterparts in their, Caucasian-owned schools, and all those guys are educated. They went up to master's levels, and they've built their schools around their research and dissertation, and that's the experiment.
And they've created the credibility that
And
you
I
need.
did mine exactly that way. So with my master's dissertation, my experiment was Fezile Fashion Skills Academy. I did it. I did research on it. I had findings on it. I concluded because I wanted to decolonize fashion education, and I wanted to teach it in our aesthetic and in our way.
Yeah.
And that's my experiment. And furthermore, to my doctoral degree, the Fezile Fashion Skills Academy as a framework, that's my experiment. So what should fashion education actually look like? Black or in color.
Yeah.
So that's my respect. So I hope this sums it up, and that's my respect that I've now gotten on a national and an international landscape, because you must take me seriously.
Yeah.
I'm educated in this space, and my experiment is my college, and I'm influencing change and policy through my practice, which is my school, and that's my respect. So it's tricky. That was my angle, and now I don't knock on doors. The doors come to me. That's my respect. So I think in your way, you almost need to find how you want to get your respect. And believe me, I know it sounds like, oh, she's just, and then it's easy. And then it's easy because you can't really question what I'm doing, because I know what I'm doing. I'll be Dr. Mdletshe very soon. So within the space of non-generic, strictly fashion design. So I know my story.
Yeah.
So now you just need to find a way, within the fashion design space, which is extremely crowded, flooded by, like everyone you said, everyone thinks they can do it.
Looks.
So you need to find your niche and how you sort of want to position yourself. And your niche is never going to be like mine.
Yeah.
But again, I pay tribute to the likes of Obulato. Obulato had to go to a master's abroad on textiles to gain his respect.
Yes,
So you know what I mean? So sometimes you must just find how do I want to be different and gain my respect without doing too much work. And my getaway car was education for me. And then immediately people, they have to put their weapons down and they have to listen. They don't have a choice.
Yeah. So many fashion students go into fashion and say, I want to be the next great designer. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and they get very much disillusioned. Was it the similar case for you, Morgalen, or did you say, you know what, I'm not going to be the next great, big, famous fashion designer, but I'm going to be a successful fashion entrepreneur?
For me, when I first started in the industry, fortunate enough, the fortunate part was I started working for a company called Salrose, which is one of the biggest textile factories. And it was actually not even directly with Salrose. It was a company that used to deal with Salrose prior to that. And then I started off as a pattern maker, fashion designer, and that was the break for me, because being in the industry in the late 80s, 88, 89, 90 was an extremely difficult journey, because you couldn't get into corporate. You couldn't get into like a designer position, because that was just out of the question. Because firstly, you never had the experience, and being black, obviously, that's the other direction that you needed to look at. So being involved with Salrose just, I think, put me on the platform, in the sense of I was the first non-white fashion designer to start with Salrose, and I was sent up to Johannesburg at the time to work in Donfontein at the design department. And that's where I knew that being successful as a fashion designer, obviously entirely on my own strength, I could never make it. I had to get involved with a corporate and work my way up, and then get experience. And having said that, this is where I am today, and it's basically just never had the thought of just being a fashion designer and having this glamour and fame and just all good things come to you, and then just everything just goes by the wayside. So for me, starting off working and gaining experience, learning. And I'd never forget the person that I worked for was a person by the name of John Black, and it was a big brand back in the day, and it was attention to detail. When I say attention to detail, I could never forget the knowledge that I gained from, just working with the absolutely meticulous person that evolved around design. And he's instilled that, and up until today, I will look at every garment with every detail, to a button position, to a bar tack, to a loop length, or whatever it takes. So it's actually attention to detail that has taken me sort of so much into my career that I cannot be grateful for. And I think working and being out in the industry, it's the best platform that you could be in. And then once you've gained the success of that and you mastered that, and you have the art of going through all those stresses, and obviously it's you're working for a company, you're working, and there's a lot of things that you could pick up along the way, where when you have you're involved in your own business, and you have to carry the burdens on your shoulders of finance and planning and everything else. It just makes it so much easier for you to have. So it's like a sort of a platform that you're stepping onto, where when you are ready. And then when I did leave and come down to Durban, and then I sort of obviously found the right time. It was the right time, the right space to open, and that's how we opened National African Fashion.
Yeah. So, for those fashion students or young fashion entrepreneurs who kind of feeling very disillusioned about the industry right now, Fezile, what is like that piece of advice that you could give them that you wish you had been told before?
It's hard. I really thought it was glamorous.
Yeah.
Just like Morgalen, I also went into industry and I had to work. It's hard. But everything is hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a mom. Being a mom is hard.
Yeah.
Nothing is easy. And I think social media makes it worse for the young ones. We dress now, we look so pretty in this panel, and everyone's looking like, I wish I was them. So we also contribute to glamorizing hard work, so I guess spaces like these open up and they become educational to say that, it's hard, but, and you shouldn't give up easily. And also young people must also drop the sense of entitlement that they possess. Because there's plenty of that.
Yeah.
Things are not going to be handed to you. And if people are telling you to straighten up at work, it's different now. It's tricky because now at work, if you tell someone to straighten up, they go into a corner and now they're sad, and there's all sorts of illnesses, that people suffer from. So it's touch and go now. You can't really say work hard because people have a lot of serious mental and emotional challenges.
Yeah.
So the message of Guti, it's a hard industry. It's good, but it doesn't work for our generation because they can't cope with hard.
Yeah. And for you, Prince?
So I don't know.
Yeah, I think we are very expectant, very complacent, very entitled generation. The going gets tough, exit. Going gets tough, depression.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that we're going to go through all of that. It's not going to be easy, but just persevere. Persevere.
And you, Morgalen?
I think it's a long journey, and it starts with I think tears, and eventually you have this feeling of absolutely you're in that space, but you gotta endure the journey, and you gotta go through it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as just getting there. You have to have the patience, and I had this dream 30 years ago, and I've actually only just achieved it the other day.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a tough journey. There was no funding. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was no hand-me-downs. It was nothing of that sort. So it's whatever we worked hard on our own. And I think that's the message. If you have a big dream, follow it. But don't be impatient about it.
Yeah.
Because it will eventually get there.
Sure.
Fezile, Prince, Morgalen, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for imparting all this knowledge, and I hope that all the viewers are gonna take something from this and work hard at it to make sure that they become, future successful fashion entrepreneurs. I'm Morgalen Rajah, and this was AFI Conversations.